Tonight on GamePlan. The Saints return from Seattle with a winning record and a newfound confidence in their ability to win games in Drew Brees' absence.
Experience is life's best philosopher, and the more you can get that experience in game-like atmospheres, I think the more you can learn from those situations and try to improve your game.
Now they'll look to blemish the Cowboys' undefeated record and avenge last season's 13-10 defeat, which snapped a 10-game win streak. We're breaking down the film on Alvin Kamara's slippery in Seattle performance, discussing the state of the Saints under Teddy Bridgewater with Jeff Duncan, and Chris Hagan examines what's real and what's not in the fantasy football world.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is GamePlan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership. And Law Tigers, Louisiana's motorcycle lawyers.
The Saints will complete their first quarter of the season with a matchup against the Cowboys in prime time. Welcome to Game Plan with Juan Kincaid. I'm Sean Fazan.
The first 4 weeks of the season have been a real gauntlet for the Saints, and they've had to play the majority of them without Drew Brees. They found a way in Seattle. Now they have to do so again against those Cowboys.
The thing with this coaching staff, they're great for a reason, and this offense has had success for a reason, and they're able to call plays and do things that whoever's in there does well, and they love for us to just play to our strengths, and so this past week we were able to do some things that I'm comfortable doing, and we had success and we came away with the win.
Look, there's a handful of things we think he does particularly well, so you might feature or work a little bit more specifically on. I mean, there's a general philosophy offensively, and then there's some things that we think he does, really well, and so it's trying to, put those in a plan that fits the opponent you're playing.
As for Drew Brees and his injured thumb, he told a local radio station tonight that he was given 3 options to repair his right thumb, and the one he chose allows him to remove the cast and begin rehab in a couple of weeks. Even though the timetable for Brees' return to the field is 6 weeks, he said he thinks he can beat that. Every game the Saints have played thus far has been against an expected playoff team, and that trend will continue Sunday night against the NFC East leading Cowboys.
Yeah, Juan, it's one of the most talented rosters in all of football. The Saints must find a way to slow them down. The Saints welcome the Cowboys to the Superdome Sunday night, a team loaded with high-quality football players. And at the top of the list is quarterback Dak Prescott, who's playing some of the best football of his career.
Really smart football player, knows what to go to football, really good arm. Of course, he poses a threat with his legs, too. He can keep plays alive. I think he's doing a good job of doing what they asked him to do, keeping his team on track.
Prescott throws it to Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, and the unretired Jason Witten, who's shown no sign of rust after a year off. In the backfield, Ezekiel Elliott runs behind one of the best offensive lines in football. He's 4th in the league in rushing yards.
Zeke is proven to be one of the top, if not the top running back in the game. So, of course, they're gonna give him the ball. And, you know what I'm saying, it's our job to try to find a way to stop him, but that can be challenging, It's just to be expected. When you got one of the top running backs in the game, they're going to find ways to give him the ball.
Defensively, the Cowboys' front 7 is as good as any, with DeMarcus Lawrence and Robert Quinn off the edge, and Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith is one of the best young duos in the league at linebacker.
They're playing smart football. They're great on third downs right now, and they're getting off the field. And when you can do that, you're going to give your offense more opportunities to score points like they've been doing this year. So they're playing good football, and they're hot. And we understand that it's going to be a battle.
They're talented and well coached, and I think they're not just talented at one position group. Their front is exceptional. Lawrence has been a tremendous pressure player, active player. Their linebackers are deep. They can run. They're confident in the secondary. Defensively, they've done a great job.
This will be the 3rd consecutive primetime matchup with the Cowboys. They are 1-1 in their prior 2 matchups, home team winning each time.
You're right. It's rare that Dallas has to wait until week 4 to be in primetime, but that's what happens when your first 3 games are against some of the league's worst teams. So they might be 3-0, but that only means they're good against those really bad teams. Or so it would seem, because if you look at their personnel, you recognize that they have the players to be one of the game's best teams on both sides of the ball, especially on defense, where the Cowboys are coming off a 31-6 win, giving up just a pair of field goals to the Miami Dolphins, sacking Josh Rosen 3 times, making life difficult for the Miami offense, just as they did a year ago when they shut down the Saints offense in the 13-10 win. Dallas head coach Jason Garrett likes how his defense has been playing as of late, but knows they'll have a challenge going against the relative unknown of a Teddy Bridgewater-led Saints offense.
There's not a lot of evidence relative to what they've been doing for a long time. It's about a game and a half. So I think you see them try to do the same kinds of things that they've always done. I don't know there's anything dramatically different. The guy playing quarterback for him has been a really good player in this league for a long time. He was a high pick. He's been a starter. So I think they have real confidence in him to be able to do anything they want to do.
The Cowboys have a talented front line that could give the Saints O-line some big problems.
Look, I think the Saints had the advantage personnel-wise last week against Seattle. Do you see the same against the Cowboys?
This is going to be more difficult, Sean, much difficult challenge, because the Cowboys have linebackers that can play cover. And if you recall, they gave Alvin Kamara fits the last time they played him. He was held to just 36 yards rushing in that game, and you can imagine they're going to come up with them with the same game plan this time around.
Dynamic duo at linebacker, no doubt about that. Still to come on Game Plan, time to turn on the tape, where we ask, can anyone stop number 41? No one in Seattle did. We break down one of Alvin Kamara's best plays from last week. And you can have Saints Talk on demand with the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review it. Find our podcast on fox8live.com, the Final Play app, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership. And Law Tigers, Louisiana's motorcycle lawyers.
Hey, man. I just want y'all to do one thing, man. I'm trying not to ball right now, but, man, cherish this moment, man. Cherish these opportunities that we got. Cherish this feeling of winning. And just, man, never take it for granted. Hey, I'm so speechless, but, man, I would not have rather been anywhere else than here. Experiencing this right now, in this moment with you guys. So, man, I appreciate you guys, man, for accepting me. And, man, I love y'all, bro.
Whether it was taking a handoff or catching a ball from Teddy Bridgewater, Alvin Kamara showed his true value in Seattle last Sunday.
Best player on the field, and he executed one of the biggest plays of the game to a T. I break it down in this week's film study.
Fazan's Film Breakdown is brought to you by GMC. See your local GMC dealer.
The key to the success on the screen is the call. Not just Sean Payton's call, but the Seahawks' defensive call. It was one of the few times all day they blitzed. They sent 5 defenders at Teddy Bridgewater, which means the Saints got exactly what they wanted. Now, it's a numbers game when Bridgewater hits Kamara. Count the numbers. There's Andrus Peat, Eric McCoy, and Larry Warford out in front with no defenders nearby. They lead the way, though none make the key block. That actually goes to Ted Ginn Jr., who gets just enough of the cornerback. Kamara does the rest when he breaks 2 defenders' attempts at tackling him. Then he tightropes the sideline and steps into the end zone. Now, that wasn't the only play Kamara excelled on, but that was the first offensive touchdown, which gave the Saints confidence as they went into the locker room against Seattle.
They need to get more confidence from Kamara, and also hopefully it translates over to some of the other players on the field right now. But from what we saw in training camp, we couldn't wait to see Drew Brees linking up with tight end Jared Cook in the regular season, but their camp connection hasn't translated to the regular season just yet. Cook has been a non-factor in the Saints' first 3 games with just 5 catches, one of which ended up being an interception for the Rams. And now he has to get used to another new quarterback throwing him the ball in Teddy Bridgewater. But Saints Hall of Famer Deuce McAllister believes Cook will bounce back.
And I still think that he can be a weapon. You know, I know that everyone is looking at that back shoulder. It needs to be higher, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're talking about it, you're expecting that, you're coming, you're twisting. That's a low catch to be able to make, particularly in that weather. If that's a little higher, he makes it. He's able to run. But that's a task on time deal. That's where if they get that more throws, more repetitions with that throw, I think that's one that they'll be able to exploit a little bit more.
A good option at tight end would be perfect for Bridgewater and the Saints offense on Sunday.
This is the game. Number 87 could really be a factor. Still to come on Game Plan, our own Jeff Duncan stops by. What he thinks will be the key to a successful Sunday night in the Superdome.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership. And Law Tigers, Louisiana's motorcycle lawyers.
I think that even more so, Dallas uses Dak as a runner. I mean, there will be design run plays that he wants to be able to do. And so for me, you have to keep him in the pocket and make him a passer. You know, he has the ability to be able to be a scrambler. I don't think he's as quick as Russell Wilson, but I think obviously he's a thicker player. So you've got to bring it as well when you talk about trying to bring him down.
Saints Hall of Famer Deuce McAllister gives you all the insight on the game every Monday. You can catch him at 8 a.m., 5 p.m., and at 10:35. All of that right here on Fox Saints. The Saints are bringing back one of their former first-round draft picks to fill a big need. Linebacker Stephon Anthony is back in black and gold after short stints with the Miami Dolphins, the Falcons, and the Jets. He was the Saints' first-round pick back in 2015, proceeded to have his best season as a rookie. 112 tackles led the team. He was traded to Miami in 2017 and had bounced around ever since. Joined now with Jeff Duncan from The Athletic and also a contributor here on Fox 8. Last time these two teams met, the Cowboys' defense just really shut down Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara. How much will their game plan, defensive game plan, change this time around?
Well, I think it's got to change. Saints got new personnel. They got Jared Cook, a tight end, who hasn't done much so far. But nevertheless, it's a different season. I don't think they're going to roll out the exact same blueprint. Now, what they did last time that really surprised me, and I think shut down the Saints offense, they used a cornerback, a nickelback, to defend Alvin Kamara. Maybe the Seattle Seahawks should have followed that plan because he really lit them up last week. But it'll be interesting to see the chess match between Sean Payton and the Cowboys defense, because you know Sean Payton's going to have some tricks up his sleeve this time around.
No doubt about it. And you know Sean Payton remembers what happened last year. Look, I don't think you roll out the exact same game plan, but I mean, it worked pretty well. I mean, that was as good of a game as I've seen a defense play against Alvin Kamara. They took out Michael Thomas. You know, you can make the case that was the game that sparked him to go and sign a tight end, that tight end being Jared Cook. He has not done anything the first couple of weeks of the season, so hopefully this could be a game where he rises to the occasion. But I think we all have a vision of how this game's going to go, and we kind of have last year in our head, but it's probably going to play out a little bit differently than it did last year.
When they go heavy with Kamara, more than 20 touches, they've won, 8-0. Will they have that same game plan as they did against Seattle, going heavy with Kamara, or will Latavius Murray get sprinkled in a little bit more?
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, you'd like to spread some of those touches out just because, you know, Kamara had 25 last week, but what works, and right now 41 is working. Yeah. So the numbers say if you get over 20, you're 8-0. So if they're able to get over 20 with Alvin Kamara, that is winning football. That means he is winning those one-on-one matchups with those linebackers or whoever they choose, you know, to kind of guard him or spy him, if you will. But I do think Latavius Murray gets more than 2 carries this week.
Look, it's hard to take number 41 off the field. Sean Payton's no different than you or I. He sees the playmaking ability of Alvin Kamara. He might be the best all-around back in the NFL right now. And I knew when it came down to the nitty-gritty, Sean Payton in critical situations is not going to take Kamara off the field. He's going to play him in third down. He's going to play him in the nickel offense. He's going to play him in the goal line because he's too good to take off the field. But you're right, Sean. They're going to find ways to take snaps away from him and get it to Murray. It's just got a matter of when he can do it.
Yeah, does this seem like a kind of game where Jared Cook will become more involved because he hasn't really done much up to this point?
I thought he would be more involved last week, and he wasn't. But circumstances kind of dictated that they play the game a little more conservatively last week. I think at some point he's going to have a breakout game, and this would be a good one. Like Sean said, last year they needed a tight end to step up against the Cowboys. They didn't have that playmaker at that position. The Cowboys last year defensively really didn't rush more than 4. They were able to get pressure on Drew Brees with only 4 players, didn't have to blitz. They're allowed to drop 7 into coverage. It'll be interesting to see if they can get away with that this time with the Saints offensive line much more intact, much healthier.
Yeah, and look, the Jared Cook scenario, he's going to get one-on-one opportunities. It's up to Teddy Bridgewater to find him, and for Jared Cook to come up with the catch. That's really been his issue. It's been drops, which has been mind-boggling to me. It's not being in the wrong place. It's not having the wrong assignment. It's literally the ball's in your hand. You're not bringing it in. I don't know if that's a concentration issue, some sort of mental issue, but he didn't get that figured out because there's plays for him to make. He just hadn't made them yet.
On the other side of the ball, the Saints defense, might they use a spy on Dak Prescott?
I could see them mixing that in. I know they did a little bit with that last week with Russell Wilson. He's hard to spy because he can do some ad-libbing plays. I do think this offense is a little more structured as opposed to Seattle's, where it was a lot of Russell Wilson ad-libbing in those kind of delayed double move routes by those receivers. So I think this is a little more structured, so maybe not every single down, but if he starts beating you with his legs, then absolutely.
Look, Dak Prescott is playing as well as he's ever played in the NFL. He's really come into his own this year, but all of it is set up with that power running game they have with Ezekiel Elliott. Saints have to shut down Ezekiel Elliott in the running game. Otherwise, they're going to be back on their heels, going to be prone to some of these explosive plays that they've given up all season. I think it's now 19 plays of 20 yards or more they've surrendered, second most in the entire NFL. That can happen to them if they don't shut down the run because it's going to expose them to play action.
Before Drew Brees was hurt, the goal, and I would imagine the goal was that you go on this 4-game trip here, and you play the first 4 games, it's a gauntlet. You want to come out at least 500. But with the win in Seattle, does that change your mindset a little bit? And you're coming back home where you've never lost at home on a Sunday night.
I just think it's a new game. They want to win every game they play. But to me, if you were breaking down this quarter and you got out of it 2-2, I think everybody would be okay with that. But if they get to 3-1, then you feel really good because you're 1 week closer to Drew Brees coming back and it being sort of the offense that we all know. But look, it's a new game. You take it as a challenge, and you don't go in there expecting, as long as we're 2-2, we're good. I think you go in there with the expectation to win.
Well, look, I think they're playing with house money right now. I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to win that game in Seattle. Now they come back home and they're in the rare position of being an underdog in the Superdome in a primetime game. I like their chances. They really have nothing to lose in this game. They've got to play a lot better, and things aren't going to come as easily as they did, like they did against Seattle. But I like their chances on Sunday night.
I think Peyton will use all those things you just said as a little motivation. There may be another banner hanging in the practice facility
no doubt.
With those words. Jeff, thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, coming up, we'll help you turn the page to Week 4 in fantasy football. Who to play and who to sit. Chris Hagan will have some ideas in his extra points. That's next.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership. And Law Tigers, Louisiana's motorcycle lawyers.
Every game the Saints have played this season has been won or lost in the trenches. Sunday's matchup with the Cowboys will be no different when you look at the Cowboys offense, which is near the top of the league when it comes to protecting their quarterback. They've only allowed a league low 2 sacks, and they average nearly 6 yards per rush. The Saints defense, however, has done a pretty good job of getting to the quarterback. Their 9 sacks ranked 9th in the league. But where they have struggled is stopping the run. They're 28th because they allow 5 yards per rush.
The Keys to the Game is sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers in the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
The first quarter of the NFL season not only reveals the guys you want to keep on your fantasy roster, but the ones you may want to try and pick up.
This is when things get real, Juan Kincaid. For more on who's hot and who's not, here's Chris Hagan with his extra point.
Entering Week 4, there's a little more reason to panic on some players, but there's also reason to be hopeful. But that said, you need to be making the right roster moves on who's starting each week. We now have enough of a sample size to start planning who's going to have big days instead of just hoping. Here are 5 facts that we've learned so far. Number 1, everyone in the Chiefs offense has fantasy value. With Tyreek Hill still out, the ball's being spread around a little more to guys like McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson. Sammy Watkins should still remain steady enough, around 6 catches a game, while Travis Kelce is easily the most consistent tight end. Even with 2 primary backs, LaShawn McCoy and Damian Williams, they're both getting the touches necessary to warrant starting them. It's insane that you could start all of these guys and still see fantasy value. And it's all thanks to Andy Reid and his gunslinger Patrick Mahomes. The second fact, the Colts offense is far from dead. I'll admit that I stayed away from most Colts players in my fantasy drafts once Andrew Luck retired. But so far, they're proving me and a lot of other people wrong. Marlon Mack's been tremendous, especially given his late 3rd to early 5th round draft position. T.Y. Hilton, despite dealing with injury, has also delivered. Even quarterback Jacoby Brissett was worthy of a start on Sunday, especially once bye weeks begin. Tight ends like Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron are valuable enough to start in a pinch. Besides, at tight end, you can't do much worse. At number 3, Alvin Kamara is still the alpha within the Saints offense. The gap between Kamara and whoever is next in line continues to widen. As a rookie in 2017, Mark Ingram began the season with more touches per game, but that swung in Kamara's favor by the end of the year. In 2018, we saw Kamara continue to separate himself as the primary back. Ingram had a role in blowouts like their wins over Washington and the Bengals, but elsewhere it became the Kamara show in close games. Now, especially after that game in Seattle, it's apparent that it's not easy to take him off the field. In the first 3 games of 2018 where Ingram was available, Kamara had 108 snaps to Ingram's 94. This season, albeit under much different circumstances, Kamara has 143 snaps in the first 3 games to Latavius Murray's 53. The fourth fact, Dalvin Cook and the hype before the season were very real. He's 4th in the NFL in carries and 1st in yards to go along with an absurd 6.6 yards per carry. It was no secret that head coach Mike Zimmer wanted to run the ball a lot more than they did a year ago, and I wish I would have paid more attention to it. Cook is a late 2nd round fantasy selection that's performing like the top overall pick, and if you were lucky enough to pair him with Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, or Saquon Barkley, congrats, because you might be winning a 2019 league championship. Finally, with fact number 5, Kyler Murray could be the new fantasy football Matt Stafford. It's a simple recipe. Combine a ton of pass attempts, like his 137 that lead the NFL, with the yardage, 830 yards, 10th in the NFL, and sprinkle in a steady enough amount of touchdowns, 4, with a few interceptions, 3, and I guess you get what Cliff Kingsbury's air raid offense is. If Murray is your QB1, honestly, you could do worse. So you might as well roll with him and take the good with the bad. Reporting for GamePlan, I'm Chris Hagan.
Our coverage certainly doesn't stop there. Lots more football on Fox 8 this week. Tomorrow night, Eagles and Packers on Thursday Night Football as it comes to Fox 8. Friday, we switch to the high school kids. Fox 8 football Friday at 10:35. Sunday at noon, a pair of unbeaten teams. The Chiefs and Lions square off. We'll be live at the Superdome Sunday night for the final play, recapping the Saints and the boys.
And of course, you can always get in touch using the Final Word feature on the Final Play app. That will do it for us. Thank you for watching Game Plan, and thanks to everyone here at Fox 8 for their contributions. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Good night, everyone.
See you later.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership. And Law Tigers, Louisiana's motorcycle lawyers.